What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Kind of Funny Reacts here on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. I'm Greg. That's Colin. Colin.
Yes.
We're here to talk about this one, The Witcher 3.
We sure are.
We're reacting to The Witcher 3.
Sure
Now, knowing Tammy's going to put review in the thing, put a kind after it, how much of The Witcher 3 have you played?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to do these with caveats because, you know, we like to do more of a review discussion based on the amount of game we've played. So when we reviewed Bloodborne, we put a caveat there or whatever. When we reviewed, a different game that we've completed, we'll tell you that. So I've played about, I would say, I don't know, because I don't even know if there's an in-game counter.
Yeah, is there a clock? I haven't
There
been
probably
looking.
is somewhere. Maybe on your save file, but I would say 15 plus hours.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you because you figure I did 2 really hardcore nights of it and then a couple other nights in there too, and I'm fucking in love with this game.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I don't know if that I'm in love with it necessarily, but I like it.
It's under my skin. It's under my skin, Colin. I just want to play it nonstop. I keep wishing this YouTube business would fold so I could just play more of it.
No, absolutely. No, it is a game that's in your mind, and then you think about it when you're not playing it. And for a more OCD centric gamer like me, I'm struggling with it because there's so much to do. It's actually almost overwhelming. And I don't think there's anything wrong with putting lots of content into a game. I think that's great. The more content, especially in a game like this, the better. But man, there is a lot of shit to do because in those 15, maybe even 20 hours, I'm level 7 or 8 or something like that. And
I hit level 10 last night. I felt like I had accomplished something.
Nice. Yeah, I just am running around, seemingly doing nothing at all.
Yeah.
But actually hours are passing by.
Right,
and
right,
I am
right.
like uncovering new places on the map and stuff like that. And
You're taking out them little monster holes and taking all those.
I love the monster holes. Yeah, you gotta take those out.
Finding the old places of power.
Yeah, places of power. Yeah, the maps are just very robust in the game, which I think is very cool. It's not like just like town, side quest, main quest. Like there's really actually quite a bit of diversity in what you're finding. You're finding bandits, you're finding slavers, you're finding various encampments, some in side quests, some just you're stumbling across them. Yeah. It's one of the coolest parts of the game is kind of the sporadic nature of it.
Exactly. And here's my not my knock against it because I'm in love with it and I don't really mind, but last night I felt like almost to the point of where I was with Reckoning, Kingdoms of Amalur, of course. Reckoning, huge hit from 38 Studios. In the fact that I was getting to the point of like I was so lost now in the story, I don't even know. You know what I mean? I was tired. I was like, I'm gonna do this side quest, right? And then I'm gonna get out and just explore, uncover question marks, beat up monsters, right? And then 4 hours later, I was still doing that side quest because that side quest kept mutating and permutating and getting all these different things. And I was like, wait. Am I out here now because of I know I'm trying to find this person because I was looking for that person, but the Baron, and I couldn't anymore piece it back to where it came from. You know what I mean? Like it got so crazy.
Yeah, the main quest to me is a little muddled too, in the sense that like it seems like you're always just doing something for someone for them to tell you more information.
Yeah.
There seems to be like no. I mean, it's very early. It's very preliminary, right?
Of course.
So I mean, I'm sure the story changes. The story apparently is quite long, quite robust, and the game can take you 200 or 300 hours according to CD Projekt. Although that's dev math, so you have to really kind of do what you can to.
Yeah, but they're an interesting dev, putting thank you notes in their thing, saying their DLC's free.
That's true. That's a good point.
Now, here's a question. I'm sorry, a quick side note before we get back to more of the story things. Put a pin in that. Are you aware? And this is something that I was confused about that they sell the season pass for this.
Yeah, but then but there's free DLC or something.
Right, there's 16 pieces of free DLC, which I would assume includes the beard and shave kit, which is free right now, and the horse and yourself armor. But then there's expansion content coming that's going to be like 10 and 20 hours a piece in October and then next year too.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I'll even care at that point. But
I think I mean, like that's the thing is like last night I was ready to buy it. I was like, yeah, well, mainly because I want to throw them a few bucks. You know what I mean? It's like a tip jar. Anything, people tip us on YouTube, they tip us on Twitch or whatever, give us more money than we ask for. I feel like I'm enjoying it so much, I want to give them more money more money for more of the game. But I don't know, if I'd use the game because I did the same thing with Amalur Reckoning, right? Where I bought the season pass to get the DLC, but by the time the DLC came, I wasn't anywhere near done with the main stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll play that kind of stuff by ear, but I think that the quest itself is just I'm not like so interested in the story as I am the world, and even the characters in the world. I think that I just seem to be doing favors for people so they tell me more information about the person I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But again, it's very preliminary, it's very early, and but I feel like I've the one thing is I feel like I've dumped so much time into it and gotten so little out of it, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad thing,
sure,
a bad way, because I think that that just tells you that this is a huge world and a huge game, and there's lots to do, which is cool. I feel like sometimes I'm beating my head against the wall because you get so little experience for doing anything other than really main quest objectives that it almost is like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing the side quest for literally 10 or 25 experience points? Or why am I killing these monsters that are pretty difficult and I get 4 experience
And
points
that was
for
the
them?
thing last night about that quest that kept permutating, though, is that I was a side quest, I believe, and I was getting rewarded a lot because last night I went from just below 8 to 10. Like, I made that in one night, which was a night and day compared to the last few days of how much I've struggled to get going. And so I was like, okay, cool. Maybe it's that tipping point that, in the beginning, rather than it's actually the inverse of what we normally see, right? Where you level up super fast in the beginning, but then in the end, when you're actually good, because that was the other thing right now, playing it. I'm seeing experience. I'm putting in this. I'm doing that. I'm making my, fast attacks better. All these different things for Geralt. But for me as a player, like, I'm way better at fighting, right? Like, I'm actually in command of fights now. Where for a while it was like get fucking hit, run back, cast a spell, come back, hit him a few times. Run. Now I'm actually in there, not owning anybody, but in the fight, I have a shot, and I feel like I've personally leveled up. I feel like my own fighting skills have leveled up. I'm understanding the game, which is a reward unto itself.
Yeah, I've learned to parry and not roll, which is one of the important things I think you need to learn in the game.
That was one of the things people watched our Let's Play over on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, and we're like, oh, hey, like you're casting a lot of spells, so that's eating into your stamina, so don't roll, dodge. If you dodge, it doesn't eat your stamina. I was like, oh, that was something the tutorial probably told me 15 hours ago, and I forgot. Thank you.
Yeah,
and now I'm doing that. I'm like, all right, now I feel it.
The game, yeah, so I think that my biggest problem with the game is actually the way it plays, but...
Well, what do you mean by that?
I think it's a little stiff. I think that there's like a lot of frustrating things in terms of maneuvering around. I feel like the least fun part of the game is like getting like through a battle or getting through a dungeon or whatever, in the sense that like it's just a stiff kind of, it reminds me a little bit of Assassin's Creed in that it's just like it's a little stiff, and I wish it felt a little bit more like Amalur, and I know that
Sure.
I think Amalur, frankly, is a better game than this.
In terms of gameplay?
Yeah, in terms of gameplay, I mean, by far.
Yeah,
This
Amalur's-
world, I mean, like, combining Amalur with this game's world and lore and characters and stuff and graphics obviously would be extraordinary, but I still think this is, probably a better game overall, but in terms of playing the game,
Right.
I think Amalur is leaps and bounds probably ahead of many games of this nature.
I'd agree to that. I mean, Amalur's gameplay, moment-to-moment gameplay is second to none. But the combat I enjoy. I don't find that to be stiff. That works for me, and it is Assassin's Creed. If you haven't played it, it is very much like you are with somebody and you pace around, he comes in to attack, you reverse, then you hit. You know what I mean? Which was very much how I played Assassin's Creed. But for me, where it gets clunky is when you're just in the world maneuvering. Oh, there's a loot bag, and you run up to it, and then you coast a little bit by it, and you can see it just behind your heel, but you can't. You're like spinning in a circle trying to get you to.
Yeah.
You back off, then you're like way out of arm's reach, but now the X button pops up, you hit it, you loot, and it's like, all right, like.
Yeah, that kind of stuff's a little frustrating, but I mean, I deal with it because I think that, the game overall is very well made and very well done. I think that a lot of people have problems with the graphical downgrade that the game seems to have gotten since it was revealed. I think that that's kind of obviously was going to happen. I don't understand why
happens with
anyone's...
every game.
Yeah, I don't understand why anyone would be surprised about that. It's a little weird to me. But, beyond that, I think that it's the game's world, I think, is really impressive in the sense that I like high fantasy. You actually don't, which is why I'm surprised you even like this game.
Yeah.
And I think that the best high fantasy games like this, or shows like Game of Thrones or whatever, books, show like a world that's somewhat ravaged and somewhat scarred by whatever's going on around it. So it's not like a really pristine world, a pristine high fantasy world, which exists out there in fiction and has a place, but more of a war-racked, bloody, brutal world. And I think that really is very well realized. You're going through for every beautiful vista you see or whatever, you see a literally just a battlefield that was just left there with swords all over the place and just bloody sand.
Right.
And I don't know. I just think that the world feels actually quite lived in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's really cool too. And I said it before, I think on our other shows, but I'm really impressed by the lighting in the game. It's the one thing that really sticks out to me over and over again. The way the sun interacts with the trees and the foliage and the buildings and stuff like that. I mean, the game's just really, really pretty from a lighting perspective. I'm actually hard pressed to think of a game that looks better in a world that has dynamic lighting like that and a dynamic, day night cycle. So that's like one of the things that sticks out to me. Another thing that stuck out to me is that there was a lot of hullabaloo with some people that were talking on Twitter and whatnot and just various places about the representation of females in the game and how the game might be sexist a little bit, and I'm not seeing that. And I'm kind of curious how you're seeing, because I'm seeing the exact opposite actually. I'm seeing like very strong female characters from the very beginning of the game. The last thing I did yesterday before I went to bed before I turned it off because I was watching TV after that was, an elven, like you find some archer in a tree in a side quest, and you like go to he like asks you to put his weapons, put your weapons down, and he'll bring you to his leader or whatever, and like everyone's standing around this person, and then they move away, and it's like an elven woman,
Yeah.
who then threatens to kill you if you don't like leave
Sure.
her. I'm like, okay, like I'm seeing characters like this pretty much all over the place.
It is-
the mage you meet in the main quest and stuff like that.
Yeah, your
like,
sorceress, and yeah, the woman who. I mean, we're not going to spoil anything, and it gets revealed pretty quick. But the girl you meet in the beginning of the game, who's like training underneath you, who by the time you get moving is an adult or whatever, and is holding her own, doing her own quests, doing these things. It's like, yeah, I haven't seen this. It's the classic bait and switch from my girlfriend. Of when she was playing Witcher 1 and 2 over there, she kept nudging me like, "Hey, look at this! I'm fucking this lady. Look at this card I got for having sex with this crazy ass green lady." I'm like, "Oh, that's fucking cool. I can't wait to have a lot of sex in this game." And then I get in this game 15 hours later, I haven't had sex with anybody, and so that's what I was expecting. Having Witcher 1 and 2 playing off in my peripheral vision, I was expecting it to be like, "Ladies are here to serve us. I'm Geralt, yada yada." And you jump into the game, and it's no, yeah, your partners are. I'm finding people that I'm going out on my quest to find these people who are strong women, who are living in their own things, who are doing these own things, their own worlds, owning their own houses, their own businesses, all these different things, to then get them to help me. So I'm not seeing it either. Last night I did go to a bathhouse, which would have been, I guess it was my first time seeing titties in this game, and there was a bunch of them, but they weren't. It was just like everybody was down there in a towel hanging out in this bathhouse, and they were concubines. So that's what happens. I saw Lois and Clark.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I went into the game with that being one of the narratives that I was reading or seeing about, and I'm not really even sure where it came from, but the like where it originated. But seeing that narrative and then going into the game, I expected to see something that was like shockingly sexist or whatever, or misogynist or whatever. And I'm not only not seeing that 15 or 20 hours into the game, although maybe it radically changes.
Exactly.
I'm seeing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So that was something that shocked me. I'm not seeing something that's like neutral. I'm seeing something that actually has empowered characters from both genders pretty significantly, whether it's the herbalist you meet early on that you help, whether it's obviously Ciri, who's one of the main characters in the game, whether it's the sorceress you meet, whether it's that elven woman that you encounter. There's, lots of people in distress and lots of people helpless in this world. I'm actually finding more helpless men that are embarrassing themselves in this world than anything
and then lying
else.
about it.
Yeah, like so I don't know. I was shocked by that particular narrative going into the game because I expected to see something that displayed that, and I'm not seeing that.
And that's the thing too. From the peripheral vision and hearing this coming in, I was expecting Geralt, the person I'm playing, to be that. Bring me another woman. You know what I mean? And he's like totally. And
he's like soft spoken and
exactly, and it's how you want to play it. But I've never had the option pop up of like, oh, "Fuck you, bitch." You know what I mean? Like that's not. Well, this is women's work, isn't it? No.
Now the caveat, of course, again, is that we're early, and maybe especially 20 hours isn't early in any game except for a game like this. But but maybe it just shockingly falls apart.
Sure.
But that's just one of the things that was in my mind going in. I'm like, oh god, like what kind of embarrassing shit is going to be in this game?
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that I walked away with, and I think the other thing that I'm walking away with right now is that this is a game that really does give you a lot of bang for your buck, and I think that that's going to be really relevant to a lot of people because in a world where a lot of people only buy maybe a few $60 games a year, or maybe one a month or whatever, normal people that have jobs, and it's not even maybe a money issue as much as it's like a time issue.
Yeah,
man, you're going to be able to extract. If you play a few hours a night, you're going to play this game for months.
Yeah.
And months.
Yeah.
And if you really have to dedicate weekends and nights and overnight, game sessions to getting through this game. I think it's pretty extraordinary. I'm surprised any of the reviewers beat this game at all because we had this game early and we just weren't able to play it because of the nature of Kind of Funny Live and planning that. So it was just banging around the house for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And even with the time we needed to get the review ready for embargo, which was earlier this week upon when we posted it, we wouldn't have gotten any further than we did the last week.
Yeah.
So
I
just think there's a lot of fucking content in this game. I think people are really going to enjoy that.
Yeah, this is what I've been talking about for a while in terms of what I've been looking for in a game, right? Is a world to get lost in. And it happened for a little bit. Borderlands is like a taste of it because there was like the check boxes, but the story gets beaten in a reasonable amount of time and you're done. And you also, there comes that point when you're just fucking awesome in Borderlands. You don't have to worry about it. Whereas this, I'm getting better. Geralt's getting better, but I still feel like there's so much more for me to unlock and do for him. You know what I mean? That's the thing of like, when I think about this weekend, when I'm just going to sit down and play it for like 6 hours, I'm not totally stoked to go through and like beat the story, find this. That's not what it's about. I'm more excited to spend time with him in that world, see what adventures he kicks up, but then go on to the next one. You know what I mean? To explore more question marks, to find more monster hidey holes, to kill more things.
That's what they call them, the monster hidey holes.
That's what I'm pretty sure that's the official canon. How do you feel about no level cap? Somebody's telling me online there's no level cap. I didn't read any of the reviews. I
That's
just wanted
cool.
to jump in.
I mean, that's totally fine. I think level caps are a little arbitrary because by the time you, like you said, by the time you become like really overpowered in a lot of these games anyway, it doesn't matter. So this just gives people a string to. There's probably post game content that you're going to need to be higher level than beating the game, which is typical in a Western RPG like this. And as far as I understand, there's plenty to do after the game. Although beating the game does lock a bunch of shit down, which is something,
really? I didn't know
which is apparently something people should know, and that happens apparently multiple times throughout the game. So like that's why you need to like go
multiple
do your,
save files.
That's why you need to like go like that's another reason why you should just do your side quests as they come up. But the game does a nice job of suggesting levels for you and stuff like that, which I like but don't like. I don't understand why I'm able to accept a level 30 side quest when I'm level 4. It doesn't make any sense. Like there's little things like that where I'm like, this is a little weird.
See,
I don't quite understand why this is even unlocked yet.
I would go the other way. Whereas if I ran up to a board and I wanted just to collect them to have them in my inventory for when I hit that cap, and it was like, sorry, you're not level 30. Well, I'm not gonna go out and try to fucking do this blazingly red quest or with the the devil fucking skull on it telling me it's gonna kill me. But I just want it in my inventory so that when I hit there, I can go.
Yeah, but I think there's more clever ways within the narrative to do that, which is have little checkboxes behind the scenes in the code or whatever that's like, all right, now you're this far in the game, so now these things unlock. I mean, that's the way most RPGs work, but not necessarily Western role-playing games, which are a little more open than the Japanese role-playing game that would tell you to come back to this town, after you hit this trigger, and now everything else is unlocked.
The easiest way to do it right would be that you go back and turn the quests you've done to the quest board, right? And then there'd be new quests on the quest board when you've done it and stuff like that.
Right.
But I don't want that much backtracking.
I don't know. Yeah,
Good
but there's a deep minutia to the game about everything you do in it, whether it's the quests. There's 6 different types of quests, I think. So you have your hunts and your kind of a collectathons and stuff like that. Then there's like a whole alchemy system, which is a little convoluted. I think I'm never really into that shit. I don't quite like that kind of stuff. This game doesn't like Amalur and others doesn't really make you do it. Which is cool. There's armor crafting and weapon crafting, obviously, and things of this nature. Enhancing your character with points that you receive for leveling up and finding places of power. There's just a ton of shit to do in the game. A lot of micromanagement. I wish the menus were a little less clumsy. I think at least on PlayStation 4, I'm sure it runs better on PC. But on PlayStation 4, the menus are a little clumsy and clunky. I don't like that you have to like press the middle button to get to a menu, which then goes to the world map. Like there's like little things like that are like a little that I don't quite understand. Maybe there's a quick like a hotkey I don't know yet.
Swipe up on the touchpad.
Oh, okay.
You swipe up and it goes right to your map.
That never was clear to me.
No,
that may be the first game that uses
the
the swipe since the launch PlayStation 4.
The way I figured it out, right, was that Major Nelson tweeted that if you want to jump to the map on your Xbox, hold this button. And I was like, well, fuck, then it's on the PlayStation somewhere. So I was like tapping like the corners, and then I by accident did that. And I was like,
That's good to know. Yeah, there's a lot like the load times are a little long.
Load times suck.
The load
just
times,
for when you die or when you start it.
Someone mentioned somewhere, and one of the things we were doing, like, why are you guys complaining about the load times with this, but it was okay in Bloodborne? And I was like, well, the problem, or vice versa, actually. So it was bad in Bloodborne, but okay in this. In other words, I'm sorry about that. So the load times were bad in Bloodborne, but okay. Something we didn't complain about. The load times are long, but it's different because you're not dying constantly in this game. So in Bloodborne, it sucked because you were literally waiting a minute and a half without that patch for you to get back in your game, and you die every 5 minutes. And in this game, once you get the hang of it, you're really not dying. Half the times I die in the game now, I'm dying on accident, like falling off a cliff. That's one thing is that like you can't sustain falls in this game, which is like cool but a little weird.
Yeah.
I also found that the horse, using Roach is a little annoying too.
Roach pisses me the fuck off.
There's two ways to look at this, which is like they do a nice job of making sure that you can clip through a lot of shit when you're on Roach. I don't know if you notice that you just go like right through like little trees. Yeah. There's like no like so they definitely remove a lot of barriers to make it a little more free and open. But using him trying to get from point A to point B, especially in the second area, which is like a boggy kind of watery area, it's like impossible to go anywhere with him unless you stay on the main roads and stuff like that. So there's frustrations to be found as you play the game, but I think overall this game's a great success.
Yeah.
The Northern Realms have been like really fun to explore. There's so many other places I haven't been yet.
I can't wait.
And there's just a ton of content. Like I'm really impressed. They made this game in just over 3 years, and I'm really impressed with how much they put into it, and how well they've polished it, all things considered. I'm finding little glitches and little hitches everywhere, but
that's an open world.
But yeah, it's no different than a Bethesda game that we laud praise on. So I think that this game shouldn't be a huge surprise to a lot of people because it had quite a bit of hype behind it. But I think that this game, puts other studios like Bethesda Game Studios and others that do this really well on. There's a new kind of competitor that should be paid attention to, because I don't think that with Witcher, especially the original Witcher, but also Witcher 2, many people really were paying attention to
It was
these
a
games.
very slow roll, right? Where it slowly caught on to people were like, wait, something cool's happening over there.
Yeah, it's like, CD Projekt's kind of isolated over in Poland. Like, we don't have a lot of access to that studio. The first one's only on PC, the second one's only on Xbox 360 and PC, so that isolated some people from playing it. And so
Right.
I think that this is going to surprise people. I think that this is going to be a reason for people to dust off their Xbox 360s or go buy the original game on PC and kind of play the lore. I think that the books sound really intriguing to me now.
Yeah, it's this whole universe we've stumbled on. It's very...
It's awesome. That's the thing, is that it's a universe made by an Eastern European author that would never have really had the light of day in the West for a large audience if it wasn't for the games that they were based on.
Yep. It's, in terms of the game and how this Witcher 3 is going to hit, it's very comparable, I feel, to Persona 5. We're talking about Persona 5 coming, and people are underestimating how big that game's going to be, right? But it's like they've laid the groundwork with these games that hardcore people fell in love with, and now after Persona Golden, people understand that there's something cool happening there. So now when you drop Persona 5 on a group that has, all these different systems, it'll be easier to get to.
Absolutely. So I don't know, man. I highly recommend the game. I think it's really good. I mean, we've kind of just been back and forth and all over the place. I mean, there's lots more to say about it, but I think that's just kind of The Witcher 3 in a nutshell. And I think that I highly recommend it. I think that a lot of our audience is going to enjoy this game. I don't know that it's my favorite game of the year, but I think that it's certainly
Gamescast topic.
It's certainly up there. I still think that Dying Light's probably a better game than this.
Really?
But yeah,
That's surprising to me.
yeah. I mean, in terms of gameplay, this has nothing on Dying Light. But it depends on what you're looking for. I don't think Dying Light's world is necessarily nearly as interesting as this. There's definitely a ton to do in Dying Light, but not nearly as much to do as there is here. But I think Dying Light was a more fun game from a gameplay perspective, which was surprising to me. And I've said that before. I didn't think Techland had it in them. But they do. And so I think the parkour and the combat and all that, I love that in that game. I think that was a lot of fun.
Interesting.
But everything else, the game has to be fun to play. It's very rare when you're playing a game like Telltale where you can be like, all right, the game doesn't play very well, but it's good enough where I'm gonna excuse that. Yeah. That said, I still think The Witcher 3 is a fantastic game so far, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. Certainly one of the strongest games of 2015.
I think right now, and this is only 20 hours in, we'll see how it goes as we go. I think right now it's my front runner for Game of the Year so far. So we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Okay.
In the months to come. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think of The Witcher 3? Let us know in the comments below. Share this video with your friends. Subscribe to our channel. And of course, keep coming back here to kindafunny.com for new videos each and every day.